All right then, here we are. It's me and Rich today. No Natalie. She might pop her head around the corner later, but we'll see what happens. But for now, you stuck with my Dorset tones. Me and Rich, we're here to dissect not the best couple of weeks of the season, it's fair to say. Where do you want to start, Rich? Should we have a look at? We'll have a look at the Newcastle game first of all. Talking points such as they were, and then we'll put that into some context. So, talk to me. You're a lot more down than I am. Let's have your feelings on it as a whole first.
So yeah, good evening, Tom. Hello, listeners. I hope we're all well wherever we're listening from. I was just saying then to Tom, it's just kind of I'm still in shock with the last two games. If I'm being honest, it's just so unlike us, and I think it's really, really frustrating that we should be in a position where we should be, it should be done and dusted, and there's still that lingering doubt that what happens if Fulham or it's in West. I think it's too late for West Brom, but they've started to pick up results, and I know we keep saying it, but end of the season, funny things happen under pressure. And at the end of the day, Wolves and Fulham and West Brom almost at this stage have got nothing to lose, and it kind of and we're playing with a lot of fear. Yeah, it's just been that frustration that we've kind of not put it to bed, and yeah, it's still lingering on. And just the last couple of performances, I know you mentioned, Tom. It's been a very un-Burnley like, and just so we've been really soft. We have been a soft touch.
Yeah, I think the most frustrating thing about the Newcastle game was it reminded me a bit actually of remember the season we got into Europe, Watford away. I think someone might have said this as well in our chat. I think in that game against Watford, we played well for about 3 minutes and we won 2-1. Came from behind. It reminded me a bit of that game. So Newcastle, they didn't really have to work, did they, at all? I mean, 1-0 up, cruising at half time. Newcastle got nothing about them. You knew that at some point, Sam Maximan and Wilson are going to come on. You knew then we're gonna have a different test. But the ease in which they took the game as soon as them two come on, and then the fact that they just, again, well, like I said, they played well for 3 minutes, didn't they? And they got the win. They were cruising after the second goal. Yeah, it was, and like you say, very un-Burnley like it. Exactly. I thought, last week Southampton, it was a bit of a mad one. It's not often you see us give us a 2-goal lead, but I thought, well, it's a one-off. These things happen. They're a bit rusty. They've had a few weeks off. We've got a winnable game next week, but yeah, it was the ease with which we were beaten is not something you associate with us, and it was a bit of a concern. It's fair to say.
Yeah, like you said, Tom, it was just 5 minutes. I always had it in the back of my head that obviously St. Maximum and Wilson, even though Wilson didn't actually do that much, but maybe the battle scars from there early in the season when St. Maximum kind of won the game for Newcastle then, and he did exactly the same. Literally in the space of 5 minutes, he set up the first goal. And the second goal for me, I just can't believe, I've actually watched it back quite a few times to actually almost kind of see what happened. And one thing Wilson did do, he took Ben Mee away with the run. He made a good run there, so we had to follow him. Tarkowski, yeah, he should have just tackled. He should have just engaged him, and even if he fouls him with 30 yards to go, we'd just bring him down. And then the second one, I don't know if it's this both players have switched off or it's managers in instructions, but both Westwood and Brownhill are both 20 yards up the away, up the pitch when St. Maximum's picking the ball up. Surely, it's 1-1. Okay, St. Maximum's come on. He's picked the ball up in that pocket. Just one of you two sit in that midfield area and just stop him breaking on our two centre halves. And it's something that I've noticed a lot in the last recent games. It's really good that we look like we're going to score more, but to flip that, we do look far more open at the back. Going way back to the first goal Arsenal scored against us was a goal where we tried to press him high, which did work for our equaliser when Xhaka gave the ball away. But ultimately, if teams beat that press against us, we're just really exposed against the back four. And as we know, our defence isn't quick at all. And we've really struggled with that. So I know it's that fine balance, but I just thought it was, as soon as that maximum come on, there was about half an hour to go. I know it's a little bit negative. I think we should have just sat, our midfield should have just sat a little bit deeper, at least for, 10 minutes or so. But yeah, I know it's all well and good in hindsight. When you watch the goal back, it's just a catalogue of errors, individual and team shape errors, which have caused that goal. And don't get me wrong, it's a great goal, isn't it, by him? We'd love somebody like that in our team who can change the game in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think for me, I think the midfield is probably the key to it. I've said there was a good, I haven't read it, but there's a piece in the Athletic this week, and it's talking about the difference with Brownhill and Westwood as opposed to Cork and Westwood. And I think that was why we lost against Southampton, is because they were, for a good sort of half an hour in the middle of that game, they were just running the midfield. It's difficult sometimes 3v2. We saw in the Everton game, a big part of that win was the fact that Brownhill and Westwood were pushing and pressing so high up the pitch. But as you say, when it works, it looks really good and we get more goals. But when it's not working, the defence looks really exposed. And a big part of why Tarkowski, me, and Pope always look so good is because they have that protection from the midfield. And that's been lacking. Like you say, Saint-Maximin's a good player, but as we said, he's not really had to work for that goal because of the gap that's in that midfield. So a big discussion point then that comes with that is midfield for the next game for Man United. Are you leaving? What midfield pairing are you playing with? Do you think Brallen and Westwood can play that bit further back? Would you be looking to bring Cork in for that game?
I think we've discussed this on this podcast quite regularly, haven't we, Jack Cork? And I think everybody who's part of the No Nay Never podcast is a big fan of Jack Cork. He maybe doesn't do, he's not the most fancy of players, but I think he's very, very reliable. He's great on the ball, doesn't give it away, and I think he gives a lot more calmness to the midfield. And I genuinely think he would have sniffed out that danger. He would have, not to say that, hindsight's a wonderful thing. The last couple of games, but I think if Cork's in there, he does shore it up a little bit. It's harsh on Brownhill because I actually think Brownhill's got more talent than both of them. I think he's got more to his game, but he's still learning at this level. I think just for this United game, we're not going to have a lot of the ball. I'd go back to your tried and trusted method of Cork and Westwood in central midfield. So that's what I would go for, Tom, and yourself.
Yeah, I think we look a little bit unbalanced with Westwood and Brownhill there in these kind of games where we need to try and sit. So I think their instinct for both is to play that little bit higher up the pitch. And I think, like you say, Cork is a bit more maybe positionally aware, a bit more of a deep line midfielder. I think that's something that we've always struggled with because we play this midfield too, is to have someone who can sit a bit deeper. That's one of the things that Defoe brought us that we've never really replaced, in my opinion. Someone who can just come and take the ball off the centre halves and play between the lines like that. And I think you can make Westwood and Brownhill do it if you need to, but I don't think it's their instinct. And I think that is a big part of the problem that we've had in these last couple of games. So yeah, for me, I would be looking, and not, as you say, not because he's been playing badly per se really, but because I think we need a bit of something different in the midfield for the Man United game. I think I'd be looking to replace Brownhill with Cork. I think my midfield would be the same as yours for that game.
Yeah, I think it's interesting though because trying to be balanced and and not disregard Brownhill in this game. I think Brownhill and Westwood both started in midfield against Liverpool, didn't they?
You're asking the wrong bloke. I'm sure you're right, but no, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. To me, I think it's you can pin you can say Brownhill and Westwood obviously should have been maybe one of them should have been sitting a bit deeper, and that's my opinion on it. But do you think it's coming from the coaching staff? It seems like it's clearly coming from the coaching staff to push higher up the pitch, which obviously has its advantages because we have scored, some more goals. I think Everton and obviously Arsenal, we scored 2 goals from that forward press. But at the same time, it kind of leaves us that much more exposed in the centre of the midfield for players to run at us. So I think against United, we will go obviously away from home. We'll go back to sitting a lot deeper, trying frustrate it, winning set pieces, etc. But I think it's an interesting one moving forward long term. Does he stick with this kind of new approach where we are pressing a little bit higher, or does he go back to the method of being a little, maybe our midfield being a little bit deeper so the defence doesn't get exposed.
I wonder how much of it as well Vidra affects that little balance. So quite obviously for the majority of the last few seasons, we've been playing with two big lads up top. You tend to see, especially Barnes, to a lesser extent Rodriguez as well. They'll come and sit in when we're defending. They'll play more of a sort of with
Yeah.
number 10 role, Barnes especially. And I wonder if Vidra obviously is not got the kind of the physicality that Barnes Rodriguez would have got. He's also a player who's not going to thrive on a big a big punt forward. He's someone who we've seen look good when you slip the ball through to him in the channels, pull one back from the byline, as he did on Sunday. So I wonder if maybe that's coloured the thinking a little bit as well. Is like if the midfield is 20 yards further back, you're going to struggle to supply Vidra. Whereas obviously if you're pushing that bit further forward, you've got someone who's a bit more nimble, who's got quicker feet. If you're winning that ball further up the pitch, then you put your money on Vidra to turn and shoot, where you wouldn't necessarily for someone like Barnes. So I wonder if that colours the thinking a little bit as well. So maybe I don't know what the situation is with Rodriguez, but I wonder if maybe even that will colour the thinking a little bit. Maybe you'd say, as well as Vidra's been playing, there's obviously something not quite right with the team maybe when he's in. So you think about maybe dropping him and putting Rodriguez in if you're going to stick with Brown and Westwood. What do you think about that?
No, not for me. I think Vidra and Wood has been the actual only positive in the last couple of games. I completely understand where you're coming from. I know Dice has mentioned in the past that he likes his strikers obviously to do defensive work as well. But I think, Vidra's I think I've seen he scored 3 goals in his last 5 games, and I think him and Wood are linking up really well. I don't see the point in. I think that's counterproductive, really. I think you just drop your midfield back 10 yards a little bit deeper, in my opinion. And maybe ask Wood to fill in a number 10. But you look at it, it's kind of, we're still playing them balls into the channels. You're seeing the goal that Wood scored, that Vidra scored on Saturday. It was kind of, I'm pretty sure it was a ball into the channel by Peters, wasn't it? And obviously it shows how slow Kieran Clark is, that Woods outpaced him there. And it's a really good goal. So, I actually think it's given us more dimension. I just think we just need to be a little bit, and I'm not opposed to one of Westwood or Brownell going forward. But if we are leading in games in the future, just be a little bit more savvy, and one of you just sit a little bit deeper, especially if the full, like that goal as well. Eric Peters was up the pitch as well. So we were just completely left. So yeah, no, I would definitely keep the same strike partnership. But yeah, maybe just give that little bit of a twist with Cork in midfield there. Would you, just a final question on selection, would you keep Peters in?
No, because for me Taylor's a better player. So if he's fit, then you play him for me. I don't mind Peters. He does a good job when he fills in, I think. But yeah, just simple as that for me. I think Taylor's a better player. So if he's fit, play him.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I know. Just one more point and kind of on the games. We're going to cover up maybe Southampton. I think Southampton and Newcastle kind of come under the same bracket. It's almost the same game. I know, but one was 3-2, one was 2-1. In a way, I say Southampton were better over a longer period of time, but I've got sympathy. Di said that he's not. Obviously the interviewer put to him that St Maximum's come off the bench, and I've seen a stat this week that none of Burnley's substitutions have scored or assisted a goal this season. Which obviously, yeah, you can't argue with that when St Maximin comes on and assists and scores in 5 minutes. But I would argue that the Villa game, he changed it, and it worked. For me, there was 20 minutes to go on Sunday. We looked dead and buried. Westwood, who's played a lot of football. I've said Westwood's maybe not been quite at his best this season, but at the end of the day, he's carried the midfield, really. So 20 minutes to go, why not? Could you brought Cork on and Taylor on? I know that we didn't have loads on the bench, but we still got 2 really good Premier League players on the bench who could have come on. It may have not made one little bit of difference at all, but what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, something actually that, because you say Southampton and Newcastle game is very similar. I actually thought the performance and sort of the level of control of the game that we had was a lot more. It was better in the Newcastle game. So Southampton, obviously, we battered them the first 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I think after that, they absolutely schooled us for a good sort of 30, 40 minutes. I think the Newcastle game, like I say, I think they only really played well for 3 minutes. That's not to detract from them because obviously that's all they needed to do. But I think the problem that we had was that we were just down to the bare bones. So you say obviously could have brought Taylor on. I think that's like for like to some extent. I think Peters does get forward well and he's got a decent ball on him. I think that's the sub that I probably would have made, but I
Yeah,
don't think it would have made a massive difference. Cork, the problem with bringing Cork on is, like we say, he's more defensive. So yes, you probably could have done with him for that goal, but then is he going to get you a goal in the last 20 minutes? I don't think so. I think you'd rather have Browning on for that. And then when you look at out wider up front, we've got two centre forwards fit, we've got two wingers fit. So your scope for changing is pretty slim there. And I think that the
yeah,
reason that we've got this stat of no goals and no assists off the bench is because for a big part of the season we haven't had a bench. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's nice to have young lads playing. It's nice to be bringing people like Benson and Mumbongo on, but would they be playing in a normal season? Would they be playing if we had sort of 20, 22, 23 man squad? I don't think they're quite at the level to be honest. Mumbongo got 2-3 minutes, which is a bit stupid on Sunday, but at the same time, I thought when he came on, I thought, well, what difference is he going to make? Even if he had sort of 20 minutes, I don't know what he might have done against Newcastle. The major problem for me was I think we had a lot of the ball. We had a lot of control of the game for a large period of it. The trouble is we only had one plan, which was to sling balls in the box. Now, in a lot of games, the delivery's been bad, and that's why we haven't done much with them. I didn't think there was a lot wrong with the delivery on Sunday. The problem was they're playing three centre halves. You've got one man in the box, Woody, who can win the headers. He's got two men on him every time. So the cross has got to be absolutely
yeah,
perfect to score from. And it and I think we put some decent balls in. And I think on another day against a team who are not sitting on a lead or against a team who are only playing two centre halves, we would have had a bit of joy. And I don't think it was a case of like, oh, we're playing terribly here. Every cross is going out for a throw in. All this. I think the problem that we had was they defended quite well. we weren't particularly we were pretty one dimensional. We were quite easy to defend against in that respect, but we had nothing on the bench to change that. If you bring Taylor on, is he going to get you playing through the middle? No, I don't think so. So that was the issue for me, and that's been the issue all season.
yeah. I think what Taylor can do a little bit more so than what Peters, he can actually run at players and get to the bar line a little bit more, to try and get behind
Yeah,
rather than crossing it from 20, 25 yards deep. And I agree with what I thought our crosses from open play, like McNeil put some great balls in, and there's no one on
he
the
did.
end of him. I know even you put in the group chat, Tom, didn't you, about corners?
Yeah, they were. The frustrating thing about the corners was, like you get two or three, and they all go at the keeper. Most games are only having two or three. We must have had 10 in that game,
Yeah,
and they do the same one every time. And it's like some teams can't defend that, but Newcastle could. And it's like just one or two, just do something different.
we had 13 corners.
Yeah, there you go. And every single one of them was like clipped to the 6 yard box, wasn't it?
I know I've been ranting about just straight at the keeper every game.
Yeah.
It's not working. Teams have got savvy to it now. Teams, they protect the goalie as well.
Yeah. Well, some can't do it. Like that Guaita at Palace, you clip them into him all day because he'll drop them all. But Dubravka's a decent keeper. And then, like I say, that all of their team is just centre halves, isn't it? So, yeah, after the fifth or sixth, he's
Yeah.
not scored from, just pull one to the penalty spot or something. Just see what happens. It can't, the worst you can do is not score from it, and that's what we were doing anyway. So, yeah, that was a frustration. But again, I think that speaks to a sort of a lack of plan B that we've got, and part of that is down to the manager. But I think a big part of it, to be fair, is the lack of options on the bench, and that was for me that was the major undoing on Saturday. I don't think we played that badly. We just had a bit of a mad 5 minutes, and then we didn't have that option to bring off the bench to change the game in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm kind of like in between that. I think, like you said, with Bruce, he just brings set maximum on. How easy is that? Like he's a top, he's a brilliant player, isn't he? He's very raw still, but he's got the ability, hasn't he, to go to a top six club, in my opinion. He's in the mould of Mahrez, isn't he? Do you know that type of player where there's not many players who can just beat players one on one, and who's got a great strike in him. I think he's a very very good player. But like I said, I think like, yeah, you can say, oh, there's no plan B, or you can be a bit more critical. And just say, I thought was absolutely clueless in that second half after they scored the second goal. Just clueless. It was just painful to watch at times.
To be fair, when I say there's no plan B, that's not a criticism. That's not. I'm not praising him when I say there's
Yeah, I
no plan B.
know.
I know what you mean.
And I think that's the frustration. And I think this is why, we go to the bigger picture. And obviously, these Palace links have been recirculating. And I think why no one has took a punt on Dyche. Because when plan A doesn't work, and like I said, Newcastle sat a little bit deeper, we just, we could have been playing till now, and I don't think we'd score. And we just, like you were saying, Tom, just putting balls into the box against three centre halves who were, you see when Wood was running at them, they've got no pace. So that's why we're just crying out for somebody who can come. We've needed it for years. Somebody who can play and beat somebody one on one with pace to stretch teams. I know it's a wider issue, but
All right. So just one last thing to touch on, I think, from the match before we look at perhaps the wider relegation battle. You mentioned obviously Fulham there. So Newcastle had a penalty shot in the first half. VAR decided it wasn't because they said, I can't remember was it Longstaff said he ducked into Tarkowski's boot. I think you and I saw this quite differently at the time. I will say I've not seen it back since I watched it live. But yeah, for you it was a penalty. I think I'm right in saying.
it's not that I think it is a penalty. I think in the modern game, I think it is a penalty. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, you think by the letter of the law.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, like, it is I think it is a foul, and I think we're very lucky. I think what I would say to kind of, obviously, I know you'll have your arguments about my not arguments, the wrong word. It's about my view on it is when you go on social media for all its flaws, every single non-Burnley supporting person said it was a penalty. So that's my kind of point for it. And I go, if that was the other end, I think we'd want it. And yes, you can say that. Well, what's Tarky supposed to do? But you can say that about any tackle, can you? Really, 99% of the time, you've got to go for the ball, and you might mistime it. So I know it's a bit different in that situation. He's come from behind, and it's not like, in my opinion, it's not like Longstaff's dove really low, and Tarky's boot is really high, and he's kicked him in the head, hasn't he, ultimately? So, yeah, I think that's my, not that I, listen, there's so many rules and everything that I disagree with, but, so I don't think it should be a penalty myself if I was to be in charge of the refereeing and the rules, but I think in the modern game, or what I would say, we were I thought it was very, very lucky to get away with it. As soon as I seen it back, said to me, Dad, that's a pen now. And I was surprised that he didn't go to his screen.
It's interesting for me because the word you used there was he's kicked him in the head. Now, there's sort of the way I've heard sort of like you said, like neutrals pretty much thought it was a penalty. But the way I've heard people talk about it, you'd think he'd come out with a fractured skull or like blood pouring down his face or something. To me, what happened is the ball's there. Tarkowski kicks it out for a throw in. So I get, and like you said, most tackles you're going for the ball. He has played the ball, hasn't he? Like he has played the ball, and to me, like I said, I've only seen it live. I haven't watched. I couldn't face watching Match of the Day or anything like that. But if he's caught him with his studs after, he's caught him very minimally. So the guy's not rolling around on the floor holding his face to his credit. He's not doing a son. He's felt the fingernail and dropped to the deck. He's not caught him. He's not bleeding. He might have caught. He might have caught him. I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that he kicked him in the head because he's played the ball and caught him a bit on the follow through. Now, to me, if the ref gives that in real time, then it's not getting overturned on the VAR. But to me, that's one that is not a clear and obvious one. And I think he's not giving it in real time, and I can see why they've said there's not enough to overturn that. I do agree with you. I thought their reasoning was a little bit spurious. So they said, he's ducked into the boot, and that's why. And I agree with you. I think there's ducking, like diving header when it's on the floor, and there's ducking in slightly when the foot's that high. But to me, I think if you're going to give a penalty for that, then what is it like? If the ball's above head height, it's just like a free shot for you. Do you know what I mean? The ball's there. He can play that ball. It's there to be played. He has played the ball. he's caught a guy slightly on the follow through. If he's done like that Leeds lad did against Man City, if he's got a bit of the ball and a lot of the man, then I'm not complaining. But for me, he's played the ball, he's caught the man slightly on the follow through. He's not going to need to get that stitched up or anything. I don't think that was a penalty. I think that would have been harsh. I think it would have been soft. But I can see the other point of view as well.
I can't disagree with anything you said. I actually agree with everything you've said, and I think you're right. But what I'm trying to allude to, and I think what some Burnley fans missed the point was, with the way football is now, that's a foul. Anywhere else on the pitch, it is a foul. You get if that's 20 yards from our goal, it's a foul. And I just felt it was going to be given. I think that's more my view on it than like we were saying before. You mentioned another point there, which I think was absolutely brilliant, and it goes to this wider issue. I think when VAR come in, it should clear and obvious errors. So again, if that gets given on the field, that penalty, it shouldn't be overturned. But then you go to the United game, which was played after, and Son gets a foul for that. This is where we're like, what is going on? If it's not clear and obvious, then so I don't mind that decision being obviously I'm happy and I don't really give two monkeys at the time. But I'm just saying, with everything that I've seen this season and the decisions and everything, I was more surprised than anything. So yeah, I think that's a good way to leave it, isn't it?
Yeah, like you say, it's the random decision generator, isn't it, sometimes with VAR. So yeah, probably on the right side of it this week. So looking at it then as a whole, you touched on previously West Brom, Fulham, are the only teams that we're realistically gonna drag us into it now. We've still got 7 points on Fulham. We've got 10 on West Brom. I know you're a fan of Fulham. But I know also that you're pretty sure that they haven't got a prayer of catching us. Let's leave the are we going to get relegated to one side for this week, because I personally think anyone who's worried about that is they need to chill out a little bit, get yourself down the pub now they're open, have a beer. But do you think West Brom can do it? Do you think West Brom will catch Brighton or Newcastle?
Well, I think if you say can West Brom catch Brighton or Newcastle, you've got to put us in there though, Tom, haven't you? So it does bring up the relegation battle anyway.
Yeah.
What I would say is, it's like it's either you can't avoid it. I think. Listen, I've been actually I watched the first half of that West Brom game, and they were brilliant, And also, and that's what's so annoying about that Southampton result is that we were 2-0 up against them lots and we threw it away. But they were brilliant. You can say what you want about Big Sam, but I think his some of the players that he's recruited, look really good players to me. Maitland-Niles would 100% get in our team. I really like that Yukozlu they've got in midfield. Obviously, full Turkish international, so he's obviously a good player. Obviously, they've signed Diang and he's shored them up at the back. I think if you're looking at it, if there was another maybe 7 or 8 games, I think West Brom would be in for a really, really good shout. I still think they've left it late, and you look at games of both Fulham and West Brom. They've still got some tough games in there. And you're gonna, West Brom's got to get 10 points to overturn us. In what? How many games is left?
7 games.
7 games.
Fulham. Yeah.
And we've got a game in hand in Fulham, so Fulham's got to get 7 to get level, 8 to get above us, and they've got 6 games to do it. And they've got Arsenal away and Chelsea away next, and that's not even us getting another point. I know you can kind of get a bit too down, with the recent games and say we're not going to get another, and all this and get, I tweeted on Sunday night, wouldn't it be us to go and beat United at Old Trafford? Because it's been that kind of season. And I think I seen a tweet, I don't know who put it, I think it might have been Phil Bird, and he said, we've got victories at Arsenal, Liverpool, and Everton, which I think we've got 1 win at Everton away from home in all of the Premier League, and we never beat Arsenal at all. We'd never beat Liverpool away. So to get them, those wins are massive. And I think you tweeted, Tom, which I thought was quite interesting, and it made me think it's almost like a good omen that we've started to do well against those teams in a way, even though it's disappointing that we've dropped points against the worst teams. Because in theory, when the fans are back, you'd expect us to be a little bit better, but it depends what way you look at it. And you could look at it on the flip side and that and go, well, with fans in, it's going to be even more difficult going to the Big Six. So what's going to happen then if we're not picking points up against the weaker teams? But I think this season, I know obviously George, who's one of our regular podcasters, has kind of been a bit more disengaged with this season, and kind of I think after the defeat on Sunday, that was the first time where I felt, I wouldn't say disengaged is the wrong word, but just flat about football in general. I don't know why. Maybe I was just so peed off, basically. But yeah, we're going to be fine, aren't we? Listen, if we go down now, we deserve everything we get, because basically we'll have had to lose 9 games in a run after that Everton. So, listen, we've got some decent games coming up. I know United's going to be tough, but we've got a great record there. Wolves aren't playing well, and I thought Wolves, we played really well at home this season. So I still think we'll have enough to get out of it. And just go and look at kind of Newcastle's got some horrific games coming up now. Fulham's got some really tough games, and I think, like you said, West Brom's just left it a bit too late.
Yeah, I think people forget as well. So we've still got Fulham away to play. If we go there and don't get beat, that's them not catching us for me. And then if
we'll take a draw there. It will set up defensively.
Might be a good result there. And then if by some horrendous catastrophe we're still in with a chance of getting relegated, last game of the season we're playing Sheffield United. That's the fixture you want. So if it gets to that stage, we've still got a really good chance. But I don't think it will. I think we're going to be all right. But it's interesting what you said there about the lack of engagement.
When you look at West Brom next 2, they've got Leicester Villa away.
Yeah, tough games. They're not going to win both of them, are they? So there you go. So yeah, I was going to say. So yeah, I think this season it is a difficult one to engage with, just purely because you're not there. So for me, like, this season is not a good season to be doing well in. You think of like Leeds, that amazing win at Man City. You think like first top flight season back for however many years. Imagine having like, oh, this is a good season, but you didn't actually see any of it. I'd rather do what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? Just let all I wanted out of this season. Let's just stay up, and next year when we go again, we can go and watch Premier League football. So we haven't missed too much, And I think the tweet that you mentioned, the way I was looking at it was,
that's it.
Yeah, the way I was looking at it was like, this season we've been bad at home against these smaller teams, and we're not normally like that. And to me, that's probably not a big stretch to suggest that if we had fans in some of these games, we would have got more points. So the way I'm looking at it is, if this season we need, if next season we need another sort of 10, 15 points improvement, say something like that, there's an obvious place we can go and get an extra 10, 15 points. Now, take your point, we're probably not going to win at Anfield, Goodison and Emirates next season, but we can make some points back quickly. If we beating the teams around us at home like we normally do, then there's an opportunity to improve quickly next season. So for me, that's putting a positive spin on it.
Yeah, I think going back to, I'll make 2 points. Going back to your earlier one, it's almost like then when we do win, because when we got that win at Liverpool, it's almost bittersweet, because it's like, oh, imagine being there. It's it has that little bit of a feel to it, doesn't it? I've said all along, just stay up this season. The squad's depleted. We've had a change in ownership. Mike Garlick left us in the mire. Simple as. People can defend him. That's up to them. But in my opinion, Mike Garlick's left them in the absolute, left the squad in the mire. And sometimes when you get frustrated with Dyche and the players, you've got to remember the bigger picture of how difficult the Premier League is. And, Newcastle fans moan about Mike Ashley. Okay, fair enough. They're a bigger club than us, or bigger club than most teams in the Premier, if you'd like them to believe it. But at the end of the day, they've still spent massive money. I don't know how much St. Maximin was, but decent amount of money. Wilson, it's a free transfer, but they've given him 100 and odd grand a week, which we couldn't do. So, you've still got that element to it. And I seen the other day, made me laugh. It's almost like football this season hasn't happened in the Premier League. Especially if Norwich and say Norwich and Watford come back up. It's just like starting from 2019.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, Bournemouth get up in the playoffs too.
Fingers crossed. They're 6 points back next season if they come back up.
Yeah, definitely.
So speaking of next season going on, being able to watch it again in the flesh, another big talking point off the pitch this week and the last couple of weeks has been season ticket renewals. Uh, you're just shaking your head at me. That says it all. Let's say it's a bit of an arduous process. I'm not gonna lie. I got my dad to do mine, and he seems to have done it, but I wouldn't have had a clue where to start. I know you had a bit of trouble. Yeah, well, talk us through a bit. The kind of troubles that you had and how you found it, because like I said, I haven't done it firsthand myself. But
Yeah, so well done, Daddy Whitaker. He's done well. My dad wouldn't have a clue. The only thing my dad's good at is building houses, so he'd be no good at that. Or just, I'm quite anxious about stuff like this. I don't know why, because it'll always get started. But so basically, what happened was, so my dad is linked to my account, so I went on mine to the on account, followed that FAQ form, read it over and over again. So there was an on-account balance to renew my dad's season ticket. So it took like 2 minutes to do. But mine, no matter what I tried set up a new account, link my ticketing number to this new account, I tried to put my account onto my dad's and just, loads of different things basically. Emailed an email address. The response I got was, just follow the FAQ page, which was extremely frustrating. So then eventually, after a long time trying, I got through to the ticket office, and they put my ticket in, my Clarets number in, and it come up with my auntie's name, and I'm like, what? How's that work? So I rung my auntie up, and she was like, right. So thankfully for me, my auntie runs a supporters club, Central Lancs Clarets. So if there's anybody listening from there. And what happened is, because sometimes for away games, because I go with a supporters club, my auntie orders tickets. My on account balance had gone to my auntie's Clarets number.
yeah.
So all that stuff I was trying to do just didn't work whatsoever. And then basically, I've spoken to over a few people from different supporters groups, and they've had the same issue, that their on account balance has gone to maybe somebody who's ordered them a ticket, but who's like random. So that's just the issue I have. So in essence, I understand what Burnley's done, because because the process, like for me dad, it literally took me 2 minutes. So if everything's linked up correctly, it's fine. But say for whatever reason, what someone's done at Burnley or somewhere across the line, in certain situations, if somebody else has ordered a ticket for you, your on account balance has gone to them. If that makes sense, Tom.
Yeah, bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah. So just bizarre. So basically, yeah, it was never. So all the information that was on that FAQ page was never going to work. And I think just in general, obviously people's been having the frustration, and I don't want to single people out, because I know it's difficult, the logistics of everything, and you're dealing with thousands of people and different Clarets numbers, supporters clubs, and people might buy tickets for friends and families. So I know it's difficult, but at the same time, we do need to improve that a little bit and be a bit more streamlined if we are going to move everything to kind of doing it online. And it's different. I mentioned my dad joking. There's a lot of people who aren't computer technology savvy. And why can't you ring up and just do it? I don't get it at all. Just ring up a number if you don't want to do it online. Job done. Or send a postal application on. The last point I'm going to mention, because I've been rabbiting on for ages, is why, if you've been paying direct debit, why did you not just freeze your direct debit for a year and then just carry it on? Or say to you, go free, or stop the direct debit you paid. You do it. I don't know.
I've heard as well there isn't a direct debit option for next season, is there? So that was something that people talked about having for a long time, something that they brought in to make it easier to buy the season ticket, and then they've taken the option away again, which seems very strange to me. That's just going to put people off, I would have thought, in a season where you'd be desperate to get people back through the door.
See, that seems completely daft to me. Like now I've been working full time for a few years. I could afford, thankfully, I could afford to pay for a season ticket in one go. But say 3-4 years ago, I would have had to pay direct debit because I wouldn't have had the money to fork out 300, depending on where you sit, 300, 400 quid. And they're on about maybe, I know it's not been decided, but the season ticket prices might increase. So I think obviously Alan Pace has come in. He's done some good stuff, which we're going to allude to later. But I think if considering the support and with COVID, I know the club's not blessed with loads of money, but I think a really bad way to come across would be to increase ticket prices, especially for people who's probably been hit hard during COVID times.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll try and end on a couple of positives. There's certainly one related to the tickets. Something you brought to our attention today. Report in the Athletic today that it's looking like Premier League are going to let fans in for the last two games of the season. They've been moving the game against Liverpool to a midweek in order to bring it just in line with the government allowances for letting fans into the stadium. So it'd be a bit of a pain for me getting up to Burnley on a Tuesday night as opposed to Saturday while we're living in Derby. But it's optimistic news. It's obviously probably urge everyone to double check what they're doing in terms of the online tickets and that if that's a game they want to go to, because I'm assuming you'll have to have that sorted in some manner. But positive news, and it's something to look forward to. Hopefully, if that does come to pass and everything works out.
Yeah, I think I read it's 25% capacity.
Is that right?
So that'll be interesting how they're going to do it. Are they going to do it on a loyalty? Yeah, so it's 25. So for us, it's 25%. Or if you've got a big enough stadium, so like Old Trafford, they'll allow 10,000 people in. So I think it's roughly be around 5,500 for us, wouldn't it? Something like that. And there's no away fans. 4,500. So it's going to be interesting the way they do it. I'm 50-50 on it. I know I brought up this discussion a while ago. I know it's really difficult. I personally would just rather go back next season when it's all full again. But at the same time, if I get that opportunity to go to Turf Moor and I'm lucky enough, after not being there for so long, I don't think I could turn it down. So
it'll be interesting because I think, like you say, 5,500. You think they're only going to pick from season ticket holders, probably 11 or 12,000. I think we've got maybe. But then, how many of them are not going to want to go? How many of them live away and be difficult to make it on a Tuesday night? That kind of thing. So, I'm hoping for everyone who wants to, there's going to be an opportunity. But yeah, hopefully we'll hear a bit more about that, a bit more fleshing out the detail in the next few days. But watch this space, keep an eye on that because hopefully that'll be some good news. And I think it'd be nice to finish on another bit of good news, which is the Burnley women's team. So obviously we're going to Old Trafford this weekend, but not the only Burnley team that is playing Man United this weekend. The women's Northern Premier League, you may not know, it was suspended and voided like most of the sort of the lower leagues. So I think it's only the top two divisions of women's football that are still going. But the Women's FA Cup has carried on. And so far, since the resumption, Burnley women have gone through 2 rounds, beat Sunderland in the last round, which was a good win because not the season that's just been voided, but the season before, Sunderland women were running away with the division that Burnley women are currently playing in. So that it was a difficult game, so they did well to win that one. And the reward is obviously one of the biggest teams in the Women's Super League. It's Casey Stoney's Man United. So I think a bit of positive off-field news. You alluded to obviously the focus that's been put more on the women's team since Pace has become the chairman. I think that can only be a good thing. And it will be nice it's nice to have some sort of positive results to talk about. And hopefully it will be a double header victory on Sunday. The men's team winning at Old Trafford and obviously the women's team winning in the cup as well. I wanted to mention that. It's I do follow them. They play in the same league as Derby, which is where I live, and the Derby women's team play in the village that I live in. So I always go and watch them if they are playing in Derby. I don't know if you've got to any games up where you are, Rich.
No, I've not got to any games. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a brilliant move that the new board and the new regime has done. It shows that they're in it for the right. Well, it's an indication that they're in it for the right reasons. And I've seen obviously they got a fantastic win, penalty shootout, which is always nice and dramatic too. So fingers crossed for a double header on Sunday. I don't know if it would work the logistics in the Premier League, but wouldn't it be really good? Let's say the women kick off, before the men's team play on a Saturday, and you can go watch them. When say if you got a season ticket, you can get into both games. I know they do that in cricket. So I went watching Lancashire Yorkshire in a T20, and they did it where obviously it's slightly different names, but essentially Lancashire Yorkshire women's team played before. So when you got a double header. So I don't know if obviously with a, maybe with the pitch and everything, or the Premier League rules. So yeah, I think that would be great. No, but it's a it's really good news. I think that's making the women's team professional is certainly the best thing that Alan Payton and his team have done so far. So yeah, and good luck to Matt B and all the girls playing.
Yeah, definitely something I'd be interested in as well. And I think what we will get, hopefully, with it being brought under the umbrella of the club, is a little bit more focus, a little bit more sort of innovation and attention to that side of things. It's a good idea that you propose. So yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, we can see something like that next season as well. So yeah, that about brings us up to speed. Obviously, Sunday, as you say, it's been a happy hunting ground for us in the last few seasons. It's been a while since we've actually lost at Old Trafford. Given the way they're playing, knowing the way we're playing, do you see that continuing? Do you think a few of Man United's players are going to have to go without the dinner after that game, or do you think it's going to be a bit of a crash down to earth in terms of the experiences that we've had at Old Trafford in the last few seasons?
I think there's one thing with Burnley, and I think you can never write them off as they frustrate the life out here, and most of the time, and sometimes in the Premier League, it can be very, very difficult. But at the same time, they pull out these results. So I think we'll go back to being really dogged and determined. Dyche will be really kind of wanting his, and I think the players after the last two games will want to put on a better show and be more organised, and really show that Burnley way, if you will. So yeah, I'm going to say we're going to get a boring 0-0 draw.
I like your confidence. Fingers crossed. I would absolutely rip your hand off for a boring 0-0 draw right now. So touch wood. No, you don't have to predict any goal scorers when you do that either. So that's a sensible option. I'm going to say we'll go 2-0 up like we do every time, and we'll hang on for a 2-1 this time. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, Tom.
All right then. I think that's about us covered, mate. Unless you had anything else that you wanted to bring up.
No, that's all it. That's it. I think it was quite balanced. I wasn't too angry. So yeah.
You seem a bit more cheerful than I was expecting, Rich. So thanks very much. Hopefully, I've managed to cheer you up a little bit as well.
Yeah, definitely.
All right then. Thanks a lot then. Thanks very much to everybody for listening. And we'll get you next time. Fingers crossed. Take care.